All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Spoken Truth. Today, I'm joined by Lindsey Harris, a mother, an advocate, and a survivor of a system that too often failed the very families it claims to protect. Lindsey has lived through the trauma of child removal, faced down injustice in the courtroom, and is here today to share her story in her own words. Her experience spans not just her own case, but generations of DCF involvement with her family. This is her truth, and it deserves to be heard. Hi, Lindsey. How you doing today?
Hi, thank you for having me.
You want to introduce yourself to everybody and let them know who you are, where you're from?
Yes, my name is Lindsey Harris. I currently reside in Connecticut, and I'm here just to try to clear the air and get the truth out.
Yeah. It's always good to be able to speak and get your truth out. So with that, let's get right into it. We'll start the interview. Let's start at the beginning. Can you describe what life was like for you and Scarlet before DCF got involved?
It was perfect. We would go to the beach every day. We'd go cohogging. When COVID happened, she would actually work with me because of the daycare situation. It was closed at the time. So we spent most of our time together. We used to go to the parks. Sometimes we would go to the Y, things like that.
Yeah.
But she was with me more than she wasn't for more.
Yeah. And your bond was good. You had a nice close bond, a lot of fun times.
We have an extremely strong bond. It's never lessened over time.
So what was it that triggered the initial contact from DCF, and how was it handled from your perspective?
The initial call was based on a previous ex who couldn't get. What ended up happening was he called DCF to get back at me for not wanting to be with him. DCF showed up initially. This would have been in November 14th of 2020 was the initial call. They got involved. From there, they did their contacting people. The case was still open, and there was a domestic violence issue with an ex that I had left literally the night of the issue. And my daughter overheard it from her bedroom, and she went to school, and she had told a friend at school that mommy was fighting with daddy, and that the girl from her class went to the teacher and told the teacher. And the teacher contacted DCF. I was not notified at all. I didn't find out until I was on my way from Wareham, Massachusetts to New Bedford, Massachusetts, which was like a 20-minute drive, where I got a call from the social worker telling me they took custody of my daughter.
Did DCF ever clearly explain why they removed Scarlet, and did that explanation change over time?
At that time, it didn't seem like they were willing to tell me anything. I didn't know much until the 72-hour hearing, which was not 72 hours. It was a week and a half later.
Wow.
And that's when I heard the affidavit to the courts of what was said. At that time, I had only had a chance to visit Scarlet about 3 times in between the removal and that hearing, because I wanted to see her right away to make sure she was okay.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I heard about what she really said.
Well, yeah. Where were they keeping her? Did they put her with a foster family, or?
When they removed her, I don't know where she was at that moment, but she was placed that evening in a stranger's home. And yes, it was a foster family.
That's sad. Do you feel that DCF was truthful with the court or with you or with your family about why Scarlet was taken?
Not initially. I do feel like, I'm going to be honest with you, I feel like from the very beginning, they had no intention of giving her back from the very beginning.
Yeah.
That's literally the feeling I've come up with, because when you do so little and, you know, the other person does everything on their service plan twice over, it surprises you when you keep your word, you do the work, and you find out it doesn't matter. To a parent, that's terrifying, because
So
our
you were
job
on
is to.
so you're saying you were on a service plan and you were following whatever things they were requesting you to do on the service plan, and that still wasn't benefiting you in any way. Wasn't
There
working.
wasn't a service plan for the first 7 months. There was no service plan. The foster family that took her in secondly, which is my ex's family, they like grandmother and aunt. They've been there since the beginning. They took her in, but they worked with me as much as they could in between. There were days I was having a hard day not seeing her, and they would make the time so I could see her. They would go out of their way. It was respectable in the beginning. We had a good relationship, me and that family, despite a breakup.
Yeah. Was there ever a point where DCF for the court admitted that the original concern was no longer valid or was never valid to begin with?
Yes. When we had hit the second trial, the first trial, the judge issued custody to me. The second trial, yes.
Can you explain that a little further?
Can you repeat the question?
All right. Was there ever a point where DCF of the court admitted that the original concern was no longer valid or was never valid to begin with?
Yes, I can tell you. So their original concern at that point, before even the first trial, was my husband. And my husband does have a history. It's a serious history.
Yep.
It reflects his past. But that happened over 25 years ago. He's in his middle ages now. And he stayed out of trouble. He's never had any issues since he's been on parole. He's never had any interactions with DCF in the past. His family's never had any interactions with DCF in the past. I do understand to an extent DCF's concerns. That's not at all oblivious to me.
Yeah.
However, his threat is not against this child. And he's not abusive. He's actually the very first person I've ever been with that's not abused me, who's treated me good. So the way I see it, I fixed the problem. I didn't stay in bad relationships.
Yeah.
And what ended up coming out is during the appeal, it was very clearly stated by that appeals attorney that Steve was never the issue.
Yeah.
So you put us through all of this and you say he was never the issue. So why are we here if he was never the issue, even though you've claimed for so long that he is? That was where I feel like that was definitely a hypocrite statement to me. Because
So does it feel like to you that when you got involved with DCF, they kind of found out about his past and used that as fuel against you?
I think they didn't have anything else. I think they were at their point where they lost that trial. They were desperate. And so they targeted my husband because at least they can use his history against me, even though he's never been around Scarlet. Yeah. We don't know what kind of parent he would be. I can see him being a very caring, protective role model, but we don't know because we've never seen him parent. We don't know what kind of parent he would be. So I feel it's unfair to judge somebody without even knowing how they parent.
Yeah. And I agree. I think that details matter in these instances. Nobody has a clean past. I'm sure we all have things we've done we're not happy, but it doesn't shape who we are in the future.
No.
And, just because you went to jail or went to prison doesn't mean you're unsafe around children later on in life.
His offense was never against a minor, just for the record.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. It wasn't great, but it wasn't against a minor at all. It had nothing to do with anybody underage. This person was grown. So I would just want to make it clear it was never against a child. I don't understand why they would make it about that. Yeah. It was already a tragedy what happened.
In my opinion, DCF tends to grab onto things, any little detail they can use to benefit their story or their misrepresentations. They'll fly with that. And It's really sad to see it happen a lot of times. Can you describe any specific moments where you felt your rights as a parent were violated or ignored by either DCF or the court? And I know there's probably a bunch of that, but
There's so many things.
yeah, I'm looking for the more unreasonable ones that are real blatant and shouldn't have happened.
Give me a minute to think about that.
All right, if you want to take some time to think about that, we can move forward. And if you have
Let's come back to it.
yeah, we'll come back to it. I want to get a little bit into what happened in the courtroom and the legal failures that happened. Yeah, I want to know, how would you describe the behavior of the DCF attorneys and caseworkers during your case, both in court and behind the scenes?
From all three attorneys, my perspective of my attorney is that he genuinely seemed like he wanted to help. That was my perspective of him. Do I think he did the best he could? Yes. Do I think he could have done better? Absolutely. As far as my daughter's attorney, I was more impressed with her than anybody because she was seeing the reality of things, that this isn't just about DCF or their case. This is about a little girl who has to live with all the decisions adults make. And she impressed me the most. I have to say that, because her testimony was more genuine than anybody's. She really wanted to help Scarlet. Yeah. She really wanted to do that. That was her goal. She was doing a good job. DCF's attorney, I had a hard time taking her seriously at first, just because of the way that she was reading was just so robotic. There was no emotion. I could not relate to anything she was saying. On top of that, what she was saying was false. And I was honest in court, despite I'm not perfect, but at least I was honest.
Yeah.
And I deserve a fair hearing. I deserve that. That's my right. And I don't feel like I ever got that, because we have liars in DCF who do things like this.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she does not have my respect, that DCF attorney.
Yeah, and then when I was reading your story, you had mentioned some concerns about some AI generated testimony in the court. Can you explain why you believe that happened and why it matters here?
Yes, so I use AI on a regular basis to do work. I'm familiar with how it works, and it has a robotic way of describing. There's no emotion. It's a program. It's not a human. So what she was reading was so laid out in a manner that would be consistent with the way AI speaks. The roboticness to it and the breakdown of how she did that is exactly how AI breaks it down. Now, I could be wrong, but it's a little too similar to just dismiss.
Yeah. And now, if that was the case, that's something that she should have mentioned in court, or I'm not sure how that works. I'm aware that, yeah. What was your specific concern with it? Was it because it felt disconnected from your case, or what was it?
It was just blatant. It was so obtusely to attack me. It was not to defend their case. It literally was to attack me. You don't go on public television and call someone paranoid and delusional when you didn't even look at the evidence. How can you possibly say that if you haven't even looked at the evidence? Now, if you don't see what I see in the captures that I got, which till this day, I know what they look like, but I can't explain it, then I'm delusional. But there's something there.
Did you want to discuss that now? The photos?
I do. So there was a night I was heading to bed. My dog started barking at the sliding glass door. I went to slide the curtain back and I saw something I didn't recognize. It was about 3.5, almost 4 feet tall. Where it was standing was impossible because there just wasn't any space there, maybe this much. So when I pulled it back, it startled me. What it looks like is your average textbook miniature gray alien. And because I did not believe what I was seeing, I thought I was losing it. I pulled out my phone and I started to take pictures. But I realized I was only taking pictures. So I put the video, and I got a video clip where I was able to catch whatever this was blinking. And I was able to save that. And I didn't think about it for a couple of days. I just didn't. And then I thought about it and I went back and I'm like, that was real. I did see something.
The
It's not a
people who
question
are,
of-
the people that are hearing the story now, they've seen the video clips and they've seen the photos. They can
Make
judge
their own
for
assessment.
themselves, make their own assessment of it.
Of
But the
course.
point is that you saw something, obviously, and this is something that they used against you to say you were paranoid.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And delusional.
Yeah, I was blown away by those photos and the video. I'm not sure what it is either, but to say that you're completely paranoid is, I think, unreasonable. I think anyone who sees that would question what they're looking at, and
Exactly.
just bringing it up and
It's
having
hard for
something,
me.
having something to show that no, I'm not being delusional. I saw some delusional me just seeing something that doesn't exist, but you obviously saw something because you captured whatever it was.
Whatever it was.
I don't think delusional is the right word. I think it's out of touch with reality. So, yeah. So that must have been really frustrating, especially knowing that you have photos and video, what you've seen, and the fact that they didn't want to. Did they ever present that in court?
They had in their custody, but I don't feel that my attorney felt it would be the best option to put that in a courtroom.
Yeah.
Only because it wasn't ran through any software, and so it cannot be verified for court to be authentic.
Yeah.
And I've never done that. It's never left. It's been on my phone and now it's on my husband's, but it's never been anywhere else. So that's never been done. So that's what I captured unaltered.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the emotional and the psychological toll that something like this would take on you. So what did losing custody of Scarlet do to your mental health or your sense of safety and your belief in the system?
I declined fast. I declined. My whole life revolved around Scarlet. Everything, my world revolved around her. It was giving her the best life I could. And then one day she's there and the next minute it's quiet in the house. And you have to come to grips with the quiet. But then comes along the pain that's coming on 10,000 times stronger than you could ever truly imagine. And let's just say I did not have a healthy way of coping with that pain. I could have absolutely handled it in much better ways. And unfortunately, with the stressors and that coping mechanism, it did take its toll on my health to a point where I had to change.
And was DCF aware of your emotional state at the time?
Nobody knew. Nobody knew. Not even my family at the time knew what I was even doing. I would see my sister from time to time, but I would always tell myself that even if I'm that good for 24 hours, at least while I'm there. So I was doing my best to hide it. It was my own secret, my own dirty secret of how I was coping. And to say the very least, any form of substances is not good for you, in my opinion. At least it wasn't good for me.
And how do you think Scarlet has been impacted by the separation? And has anyone even asked her what she wants?
They don't care what she wants. Scarlet has made it abundantly clear since day one she wants to come home. DCF has ignored her, like what she says does not matter, and it does. This is her life too, and she gets to decide a little bit to a reason what she wants. When my daughter's asking me when she can come home during a visit, and I want to tell her, you can come home whenever you want, and I can't. It's difficult, and it's been 5 years of telling her the same thing. It gets to a point where a kid almost gives up.
You said that this is the fourth generation of DCF involvement in your family. Could you explain how that history has shaped your understanding of what's happening to you now?
Yes, I can. So, seeing how nothing changed with my mother, seeing how nothing changed with my siblings, I don't see as the future goes on this cycle stopping unless it's stopped. I do see Scarlet growing up fighting for her children. I absolutely see that being a case, only because of DCF involvement in general. At this point, I don't see her growing up any other way.
Yeah, and you said that you don't feel like the system ever really gave your family a chance to break the cycle. It seems like they're hell bent on going after you guys.
It feels that way, yeah. I was adopted and they still came after me. So, as I was saying, I really hope that these judges take a look at the evidence, not just listen to words, not just trust anything, not even me. Don't just trust me, even. Look at the evidence. You make your decision, but look at the evidence. I'm not lying about that. And I really want you to know that. Despite what you think, despite your beliefs, I want you to know that.
Yeah.
I've been honest in this trial. I'm proud of the fact that I was honest in this trial. I did expect honesty in the court, and I did not receive it. And I'm disappointed.
Yeah. Oh, and what did you want to accomplish with this interview? And not just for you, but for others who've been through the same thing. What do you think this interview will help accomplish?
I wanted my name cleared because it's not just my name, it's my parents' name. And it was a good name before all of this. And it's a name that Scarlet has. So it means something to me and it means something to her. I want to accomplish that it's okay to be upset with DCF. It's okay. If you have a reason to, it's fine. But I'm trying to accomplish today that despite whatever pain you've been through, and I felt pain, I know what suffering feels like at this moment, you can still talk about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be in you anymore. You can have your voice and say what you have to say without people trying to stop you or discredit you. It's never too late to tell your story, even if it might be late in certain situations. It's never too late to get off your chest. For me, this was closure. This was getting it all out so I don't have to hold it in anymore. I can truly heal now and not dwell on the past. But for the longest time, holding it in only just did me no justice.
Yeah.
I encourage others that have been in DCF, grown up in DCF, dealt with DCF, speak out, because this is a time where we can be heard. And if you don't advocate for yourself, no one else is going to do it for you.
Is there anything else that you want to share with us?
At this point, because of the video getting out of the attorney in court and everything, I'm not going to go into detail because it's still court, going through the courts. Let's just say things seem to be looking up instead of down.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad. Things are, anytime you can get a win is good, especially when, you've been done so wrong by a system that just seems to be stacked against people like you and me. I appreciate you joining the show and telling your story. I want to let everyone know what you just heard is more than just a story. It's a testimony. Lindsey stood in front of a system built to break people like her and chose to speak up anyway. Whether you agree or disagree or don't know what to believe, one thing is clear: stories like hers deserve attention, not silence. If you or someone you know has been affected by Child Protective Services, you're not alone, and your voice matters. We'll keep shining the light on what others want to keep in the dark. Thank you for watching. Stay loud, stay awake, and as always, don't let them rewrite your truth.